that we know needs no introduction with her activism and her organizing. So all of them have been strong voices, so let's give them all a round of applause for being here, for contributing, for continuing to uphold the principles that we have. But I'm going to get started with a simple question of what do you think the path forward is, or the strategy forward is for our community? It's simple, but yeah, not simple at the same time. Thank you. But with everything going on, let's just start there, because I think maybe the answers will get everybody's attention and focus. So I'll start with Linda we'll start with Mo at the end. We're working on it.
What is the strategy moving forward? Well, I think I've been talking about this all year. Oh, this one. Okay. I've been talking about this all year. I think the strategy is, the truth is, I would say, that our community still doesn't vote. So I'm a data scientist. I've been a data scientist for 20 years. I've done it, focused on politics since 2008, and I've worked on a lot of campaigns. And so I look at turnout rates and I look at communities' voting rates, and our community basically votes at 50 to 53%. That's just not just Dearborn. Dearborn is emblematic, it's representative of the Arab community around the country, but Arabs in general are voting at 50 to 53%. When you look at people who are under 30, that goes down to less than 40%. So less than 40% of the future is voting. So I think, and working with ABC, and I have a PAC, and working with Nasser, our path forward and our strategy for the next couple of cycles is to ensure that our voting rates match or exceed the national voting rate. And we become a reliable voting bloc that exerts power. But until then, that's the strategy, for me.
Vote your conscience. You don't have to tell everybody what you do when you go to the polls. Ask yourself, sit with yourself for a second and say to yourself, what's going to get me closer to what I want? Does anybody actually believe? And I'm curious, because there might be people who believe this. You think something transformative or dramatic is going to happen in November 2024? You think no matter what happens, let's just say, for the purposes of this conversation, we had a stellar candidate, someone who was amazing, who was saying free Palestine. You think that when they go and they win the election and go to the White House, you think they're going to right away sign a check or bill and that's it, Palestine is free? This is not how it works, my friends. So what I'm here to tell you is that in today, your commitment is not what you're going to do in November. I want to know who's going to be outside on November 6th and November 7th and January 1st and February 1st and 2027 and 2029. Because this fight for liberation for our people requires you every single day. Every day you got to do something for our people. Whether you're giving to a humanitarian organization, whether you're making a call to your members of Congress. Look, we work on the Hill. People on the Hill say, Linda, I'll get 1,000 calls in a day for a piece of legislation that's pro-Israel. They tell me 1,000 people called me today and said I better vote, and they're all my constituents. Yeah. Your people got a little better. That's what they look at me and I say, the people got a little better. I might get 100 calls, maybe 100 calls. And oftentimes people who are supporting us on ceasefire, who are calling members of Congress, even when the calls are 1,000 a day, most of them are not your calls. Yeah. There are neighbors who are calling for us. There are allies who are showing up for us. So I say this because I know things that I say are uncomfortable, and I'm okay with that. I'm gonna still figure out a way to pay my mortgage, don't worry about it. I am just in a state of my life that I know me, I'm gonna be outside regardless. I was on the front lines for 4 years for Donald Trump on behalf of our community. There are people in our community that sacrifice our lives and our livelihoods to stand up for our community. And oftentimes, our community was nowhere to be found. Come on. At some point, I need our community to engage in some self-reflection. We're not good at self-reflection. We're perfect. We debate politics all day. We're the smartest political people in the world. Our 7-year-old to our 75-year-old. Political analysts, all of them. But ask them what's the thing, the tangible thing that you have done for our people. In the last 11 months, and I want to say this and I'll end with this. I want to give my kudos and my salute to our young people. To the courageous students on college campuses across this country. Other communities don't do that. We do, and I'll tell you what we do. Our community is very good at this. The good Arab and the bad Arab, the good Muslims and the bad Muslims. Oh, this Muslim, too radical. Keep them off the list. And so the White House decides who they meet with based on what they believe your politics are. So they were choosing people in our community who never criticized Joe Biden. What kind of conversation do you think that they're supposed to have in there with nobody who hasn't critiqued Joe Biden at the time for aiding and abetting a genocide? Any other community, they'll meet with whoever the community decides is their leadership. You don't get to decide who my leadership is. The White House doesn't get to decide who our leadership is. So let's say, for example, you're invited to a meeting, you need to ask yourself and be humble. Am I the right person that should be going to this meeting? Because half the people don't be the right people. And they have no humility about it. They just want to get into the White House. It's not that nice in there, just so you know, I've been there before. It's not that great there. My point is that if you're going to engage, be strategic. Be principled. Be consistent. Reach out to those that are on the front lines organizing policy, that are organizing on the Hill in our community. You know damn sure well why there are certain people in our community who are not at the table. You think Joe Biden wants to sit across from Linda Sarsour? Yeah, Jim. So anyway, I'm not a total non-engagement person. That's not my style. Because every other community is going to engage with every side and they'll sit at all the tables. So I'm not forfeiting my seat at the table. The problem is that our community will negotiate on behalf of those in our community. And so all I'm asking you is to be principled. And I know that this is ArabCon and not MuslimCon, but I happen to be Muslim. And that is part of my North Star and how I operate. I'm going to face my Lord one day. And for those of you who are either Christians or Muslims in the room, our Jewish friends, we all believe in the same God, you're going to face the same God. So just make sure that you are ready to have your back straight and answer to those things that you are doing right now, especially in light of the genocide.